The bell had barely rung when the heavy oak doors of Ridgefield High's library burst open, sending a sharp echo through the quiet space. 17-year-old Lina Alvarez didn't need to look up to know who had entered. She felt it, like the chill that sweeps through the room before a storm. Her grip tightened on her pencil as the whispers began. Lina had always kept her head down. With her long, wavy black hair often tucked behind her ears and eyes hidden behind round glasses, she moved through the world like a shadow. A scholarship student with a talent for art and chemistry, she avoided drama, popularity contests, and most of all, boys like Blake Turner. Blake was Ridgefield royalty, quarterback of the state champion football team, son of a powerful real estate mogul, the kind of boy teachers gave second chances to, and girls were expected to say yes to. He strode into the library that day, flanked by his loyal teammates, Connor Banks and Drew Nelson, each one laughing like the world belonged to them. But Blake wasn't here to study. He was hunting. And Lina, quietly sketching molecular structures in the corner, was the prey. Well, if it isn't the art nerd, Blake said, loud enough for everyone to hear. He swaggered toward her table with a smug grin. You've been avoiding me, Lina. Not cool. Lina looked up slowly. I'm just busy, that's all. Blake leaned in. Prom's next month, and I've decided you're going with me. The words weren't a question. They were a demand. Lina blinked, heart pounding. She'd seen what happened to girls who said no to Blake Turner. But she said it anyway. I already have plans. The air changed. The smirk on Blake's face faltered. Behind him, Connor's eyebrows twitched in disbelief. Drew cracked his knuckles. Blake's voice dropped low. Maybe you didn't hear me, Alvarez. Lina closed her notebook. I heard you. I'm still saying no. What she didn't know, what no one could have predicted, was how far Blake Turner was willing to go to punish her for that one word. By the next morning, Lina Alvarez knew she had become Ridgefield High's newest pariah. She hadn't even made it past the main hallway when the whispers began. Eyes followed her like heat-seeking missiles, some filled with amusement, others with cruel anticipation. Her phone buzzed with anonymous messages, each nastier than the last. One simply read, "Too good for our golden boy. You'll learn." She found her best friend, Naomi Chen, by the lockers. Naomi's expression told her everything before she even spoke. He posted it, Naomi said, holding up her phone. Lina stared at the screen. It was a heavily edited photo from last year's art fair, her smiling beside her winning piece, now defaced with devil horns and a fake quote in bright red text. I only date Ivy League boys. Blake isn't good enough for me. The caption read, Breaking. Ridgefield's biggest snob rejects QB1. Who does she think she is? Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments, most of them venomous. This is slander, Lina whispered. Naomi nodded. We can take it to Principal Foster. But Lina shook her head. Blake's father was Ridgefield's biggest donor. Half the school's new science wing bore his name. It won't matter. The damage is done. By third period, it was worse. Her lab partner had switched seats. A cruel doodle was taped to her locker. Little Miss Elitist, someone had scribbled across her textbook. Lina had spent the last 3 years building a quiet, stable life. Grades, scholarship goals, her art. Now, all of it was unraveling because she'd said no to the wrong boy. Then came the message that made her blood run cold. 3:45 p.m. Jim, come alone, or your future disappears. Attached was a photo, her art portfolio, years of drawings and paintings, dumped across a gym floor. Her laptop lay next to it, her college applications, her recommendation letters, her life. Lina's first instinct was to cry, then to run. But deep beneath the panic, something colder began to stir. She changed in silence, swapping her school clothes for the black leggings and fitted tee she kept in her locker for PE emergencies. As she tied her hair back into a tight ponytail, her reflection stared back at her. A girl who'd spent her life blending in. A girl no one ever expected to fight back. But they didn't know about the years of training. They didn't know about her mother, a retired police officer who had taught Lina to throw her first punch before she was 10. They didn't know about the black belt hanging on her bedroom wall, or the countless hours she'd spent in the dojo perfecting every strike, every block, every takedown. They didn't know she was done being afraid. At 3:44, Lina stood outside the gym's heavy doors. She took one breath, then pushed them open. Inside, Blake stood at center court, arms crossed. Connor and Drew flanked him, while a fourth figure, Zach Turner, Blake's cousin and student council VP, held up a phone, camera already recording. Lina's portfolio was spread out like trash across the hardwood. Her laptop had a boot mark on it. "You're late," Blake said. "No," Lina said calmly, stepping onto the court. "I'm right on time." Blake took a slow step toward her, hands in his pockets, voice thick with mock amusement. "You know, I thought you were smarter than this. I gave you a chance to fix your mistake." Lina's gaze didn't waver. "You mean the mistake of not letting you own me?" He chuckled, but his eyes were cold. Big words for someone whose future is lying in pieces on the floor. Connor picked up her laptop, dangling it by the edge. "Oops," he said with a smirk. "Might slip." Lina's jaw tightened. "Here's how this works," Blake said, circling her like a predator. "You're going to kneel. You're going to beg. You're going to say you're sorry for humiliating me. Zach here's going to get it all on video. And when it goes live, people will see what happens when little scholarship girls step out of line." "And if I don't?" Lina asked. Connor dropped the laptop an inch. "Then this dies. Along with your chances at Columbia, Stanford, RISD, wherever you've been dreaming of. And this," he gestured to her artwork, "goes up in smoke." For a heartbeat, the gym fell into silence. Then Lina took a step forward. Blake raised an eyebrow. "You're not even going to beg?" he said. "I'm going to give you one chance," Lina replied softly. "Pick up my artwork, leave, or I end this here." Connor laughed out loud. "She thinks she's a ninja or something." Lina's muscles coiled. Connor raised the laptop high above his head in mock drama. That's when she moved. What the boys saw was a blur. One moment, she was standing still. The next, her feet were flying. Lina closed the distance in seconds, fluid as water. She grabbed Connor's wrist mid-swing, twisted, and drove her palm into his elbow, sending the laptop tumbling safely onto a nearby mat. Connor shrieked as his body flipped and hit the ground with a thud. Blake's jaw dropped. Drew charged. Lina pivoted. Her stance shifted, strong, low. Drew swung wildly, expecting fear, but she ducked, stepped inside, and landed a precise knee to his abdomen. As he doubled over, gasping, she finished with a controlled sweep that sent him crashing onto the court. Zach froze, phone trembling in his hand. Lina turned toward him. "You're still recording?" she asked. Zach blinked. "Yeah?" "Good," she said. "People should see this." Only Blake remained now, staring in disbelief. "What are you?" he growled, his confidence shaken. "I'm someone who got tired of being silent," Lina replied, stepping into fighting stance. "And you're out of time." Blake let out a roar and lunged, No technique, no strategy, just rage. Lina waited until the last possible second, then pivoted, her right leg rising in a perfect arc. Her roundhouse kick snapped across Blake's temple with a sharp crack. The sound echoed off the gym walls like a gunshot. Blake Turner, quarterback, prom king, heir to Ridgefield's most powerful family, flew backward in the air and hit the hardwood floor with a lifeless thud. The silence that followed felt like the entire world holding its breath. Then came the gasp. From Zach, from the doors behind them. Naomi had arrived, wide-eyed, holding her phone up in both hands. Behind her, Coach Sanderson, Principal Foster, and 2 campus security officers rushed inside, frozen by the scene before them. "What the hell?" Coach muttered, staring at Blake's motionless body. Zach slowly lowered his phone. "She didn't start it," he said. "She warned them. I got it all." Principal Foster's eyes locked on Lina, then dropped to the scattered artwork, the bruised boys, and Blake's limp frame. "Lina," he said carefully. "Are you all right?" She nodded, calm, controlled, breathing deep. "He threatened my future," she said clearly. "He stole my work. He tried to destroy it all just because I told him no." Security officers checked Blake's pulse. He was breathing, dazed, but clearly done fighting. Principal Foster turned to Zach. "I want that footage. Now!" Zach handed over the phone without a word. Naomi rushed to Lina's side. "I knew something was wrong when you didn't respond. I called everyone. I'm so sorry I was late." "You're right on time," Lina whispered. Outside the gym, the world was already changing. But inside, in that moment, Lina Alvarez had rewritten the rules. She was no longer the girl who blended into the background. She had become the girl who stood up, and the world was finally watching. The gym became a crime scene within minutes. Paramedics arrived and stabilized Blake, who sat slumped against the wall, his eyes glassy and unfocused. Connor lay groaning, clutching his shoulder. Drew had a cut on his cheek and a look of stunned disbelief frozen on his face. Zach quietly handed over the recording, not just to Principal Foster, but to the arriving officers. No one told him to stop filming. Everyone wanted a record. Lina stood off to the side with Naomi gripping her hand, not out of fear, but solidarity. Principal Foster approached carefully, his expression unreadable. "Lina, you'll need to give a statement." She nodded. "And I'll need to file a formal complaint. Theft, harassment, blackmail, and destruction of property." "You'll have every support we can offer," he said solemnly. "I'm sorry this happened under our roof." Coach Sanderson wasn't so restrained. "They stole her portfolio?" he muttered angrily. "They threatened her future over a prom rejection? Jesus!" More people gathered. Word spread fast. Students peeked in through the gym doors, then teachers, then parents. And when Principal Foster addressed the crowd that afternoon in an emergency assembly, he didn't sugarcoat it. "We failed one of our students," he said bluntly, "because we did not act sooner, because we did not listen when signs of harassment were brushed aside. Lina Alvarez was targeted, and she fought back. We will no longer tolerate a culture that rewards power and punishes boundaries." The auditorium went silent. Then Zach Turner stood up, visibly shaking, and confessed everything. How Blake had stolen Lina's portfolio from the art room, how he'd bragged about controlling her college prospects, how he planned the public humiliation. "I was supposed to film it all," he said, eyes brimming. "But when I saw her standing there, not begging, not afraid, I realized we were the ones who should be ashamed." In the days that followed, more students came forward. A sophomore named Clara revealed Blake had spread lies about her after she rejected his texts. Another girl, Jada, shared screenshots of fake accounts created to stalk her. One by one, the victims surfaced, as if Lina's strength had unlocked a door they'd all been afraid to touch. The school board launched a full investigation. Blake Turner was expelled. His father's threats of lawsuits were ignored in the face of overwhelming evidence: video, testimony, digital records. The colleges Lina had applied to received statements from Principal Foster and her art teacher, Ms. Langford, explaining everything. RISD, Yale, and Stanford all responded. All three schools offered to review her application with special consideration, and RISD offered her a full scholarship on the spot. But the consequences extended far beyond Blake. Connor and Drew were suspended and faced juvenile charges. Zach, despite being spared legal consequences for cooperating, was stripped of his student council title. But even he stayed to help repair the damage, physically helping Lina reassemble what could be saved from her portfolio, piece by piece. And one morning, the main hallway transformed. Dozens of students had lined it with their own sketches, paintings, photos. Above it all, a handmade banner stretched across the lockers. Art can't be silenced. We stand with Lina. Lina stood in the center, eyes glassy with emotion, as the very school that had once turned against her now lifted her up. This wasn't pity, it was a revolution. 6 months later, Lina Alvarez stood at the front of Ridgefield High's new art gallery, renovated and renamed with funding from community donors. A sleek silver plaque above the doorway read, "The Alvarez Center for Art and Empowerment." The ribbon-cutting ceremony had drawn more people than the school's last homecoming game. Students, parents, even reporters were in attendance. But Lina didn't care about the cameras. She cared about the girl in the back row, barely 13, clutching a sketchbook to her chest and watching Lina with wide, hopeful eyes. Lina took the podium. This time, she didn't hide behind glasses or pull her hair into her face. 4 years ago, I thought strength meant staying invisible, she said. I thought saying no was dangerous, and it was, but it was also the beginning of everything. She paused. Power doesn't come from status or fear. It comes from the courage to say, this is not okay, to say, I deserve better, and to stand firm even when you're scared. She looked out across the crowd. This space isn't just about art, it's about reclaiming voices. It's about turning pain into power. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Lina smiled, not just for the applause, but for what it meant, that the world she'd once feared now echoed with a different sound, one she had helped create. A sound of voices no longer silenced,